Hello and welcome to The Intersection with me, Graham Hughes, and also Hannah Janes. How you doing, Hannah Janes?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. So we're still talking about the fallout from the Supreme Court verdict on Wednesday. We would have done an intersection on Wednesday with Rachel, but obviously she was absolutely devastated. So many friends of mine from the trans community were devastated. We talked about it a lot, but what I wanted to focus on tonight, if it's okay with you, is to talk about how this affects all women, not just transgender women, not just transgender men, but all women, and how this is a slippery slope to this all, the patriarchy. It's the revenge of the patriarchy, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
patriarchy strikes back on so many levels.
I mean, it is a slippery slope. I feel like, as a collective, trans women are women. I'm an intersectional feminist. I try my best. Sometimes I mess up, but I think you have to include all different kinds of women. Trans women are women. I have never been made to feel unsafe in a space with a trans woman. And I think when you reduce women down to their biological essence, because there's no sort of way of proving that, you get into this dangerous place where it's then up to the general public or any service or organization providing services or, changing spaces, bathrooms, all of that kind of stuff. You can get into a space where it's about perceived femininity. And we all know that, the patriarchy's idea of like an ideal woman is a very Western one. It's
Yeah.
probably white, probably with big boobs, probably slim, probably kind of petite, conventionally attractive, probably long hair, all of that kind of stuff. And so you can potentially get into this space, and it's already happening to cis women. There are, lots of stories about women being asked why they're in certain spaces who are biological women. Um, you're then being judged by the general public because they now feel like they have an opportunity to do so because that's what they feel this law does. And
Yeah.
you have a chance for services to also go to, you don't look like a woman to me.
Well, this is the worry, isn't it? And so kind of a bit self-defeating, isn't it? When
Mm.
um, the people who are going to be affected by this is not just going to be transgender women. It's going to be women who look at maybe a little bit more butch, women who are flat-chested, women who are
Mhm.
not, conventionally white, Western-looking women in that the beauty mold that people think. Older women, but also there was a case that was absolutely shocking where a woman was accused of being trans because she was undergoing cancer treatment and she didn't have
Yeah,
any hair. She was
yeah.
going through chemotherapy or radiotherapy, and her hair had fallen out. And that is such a slippery slope. Before we go on, I just wanted to say a big hi to Scott and Diz and Amy Walker, Person Impersonator, Jan Wallace, and Sarah in the chat, Kate Smith, Hayton Puds, and others. If you'd like to join them in the chat, just hit that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Oh, it normally comes up as a little animation, but it didn't. So, oh well, never mind. But if you want to wait for a minute, and then you'll be able to opine. But seriously, we have a zero troll policy here. So if you're a troll, we will mute you and boot you straight away. One striking you out. Like I said the other day, there's 100 different channels to watch that are all prejudice and horrible and bigoted. Go and watch them. Go watch them. Confirm your bigotry or whatever. Just go away. We don't want you here. We don't want your kind here. So we're very intolerant of intolerance on this channel.
As-
Sorry. So yeah, I mean, what can you sort of foresee happening down the chain here? Down the road that this Supreme Court decision has sort of set the UK on, because this is not normal. Like most of the Western countries, Western democracies, that you want to call them that, they have come to terms with the fact that trans women are women. So if
yeah.
you have a gender recognition certificate, you're a woman,
Mm.
and it's not a problem. Why? What is it? Do you think that about the UK that's made us do this, and What can you see sort of down the road?
It's really scary because I think as you said, it is a slippery slope. I think when you have people not really understanding what this ruling is supposed to specifically do, you have that kind of culture war going on. And so the reaction that I've seen on social media today has been a lot of, we won't have men in our bathrooms anymore. um, like if you are disagreeing with the ruling, I've had some horrendous comments. I mean, Tan is the queen of being harassed and abused online for speaking her mind, as a lot of women encounter, myself included. um, and it's very much just like, now if you disagree, I've had men, mainly men, I'm not gonna lie to you, say, oh, you must be trans, as if it's an insult. Like, I think when this ruling isn't about that and the culture war is, it's like, oh, you're too manly to be a woman, your breasts aren't big enough, your hair's not long enough, you dress in men's clothing, all of these kinds of things that are not perceived to be womanly. It's left up to individual judgment, and that makes room for injustices to happen. That makes room for more violence to happen to both cisgender women and trans women. And let's face it, we are already the victims of so much violence. And guess who's not perpetrating it? It's not the trans community,
Yeah,
it's cis men.
yeah,
And that is just a fact that people don't want to talk about, I don't feel like. And it's extremely frustrating because you can't argue with the statistics. And what's frustrating is that the side that agreed with this ruling, and what I'm seeing in my social media comments and other on other commentary channels, is that this is kind of a women's safety issue. This won't make women more safe. This will make women less safe. And if you're going to say that this is about bathrooms, which it isn't, now where do trans men go?
yeah,
I don't hear trans men being talked about because it feels like this is still misogyny. It's always about the women. I don't, if you're going to use this as a women's safety issue, why are you not concerned about trans men looking very masculine, beards, tattoos, bulky, been in the gym, whatever, walking into a woman's space and looking like a cis man?
yeah,
Because if that's your way of thinking, this is what that also allows, even though we know that's not what the law is about.
yeah. You know what the most common cause of death in pregnancy in this country is?
Is it domestic violence?
It's murder by a cisgender man.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got an entire generation that has been raised on these movies from the 80s and 90s in which the transgender person was the baddie, or someone, was pretending to not be trans and then it turns out that they were, or there's some kind of psychopath, like
Mm.
Psycho and Silence of the Lambs and all that. Negative stereotypes, damaging negative stereotypes of trans people. And they've grown up with that, and then they've internalized it, and they decided that all trans women, and like you say, not trans men, they
Mm.
don't get a mention, even though statistically there's more trans men than there are trans women.
Mm.
They're seen as being the same as um, a sexual assaulter, someone who's out there to. Yeah, I mean, we've covered this. We've covered this on the channel a lot, but the idea that you'd spend 2 years taking hormones and getting your gender recognition certificates just so you could sneak into girls' toilets is just bonkers. Like, why would you? When
Well, if you think about it, there's been so many public toilets. I travel a lot for work. I'm always at King's Cross or Waterloo, any of the big UK stations. And even there are signs saying that both male and female attendants will be cleaning.
yeah,
That would be a much easier way than spending 2 years doing hormones, living under the name that you want to use. What bloke is going to bother if there's an easy path?
or
You
you can say you're a cisgender, sorry, a transgender man.
It's just bonkers to me that this is the issue if we're talking about women's safety. And also the safety of children, because that's come up a lot, because it tends to be the women that take their kids into a female bathroom. If we're talking about violence against women and children, or women and girls, the trans community are just not the issue, and they never have been. But those discussions aren't happening. Like, the focus should really be on new legislation to stop cisgender men committing violence against women,
Yeah.
because that is the glaring issue that is not being addressed here.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating as a woman who could potentially be affected by this, like all women, to have the trans community kind of scapegoated, and then see women in the name of feminism saying this is a win.
That's probably the most appalling thing about all this, that feminism has been co-opted. And I often think of it's the same as, like, you're a bit embarrassed when you see someone put up a Union Jack, because
Yeah,
you're like,
always.
oh, they probably vote for refuck. They probably voted for Brexit. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
connotations are there. And it was really nice in 2012 at the London Olympics when Mo Farah won the 500 and the 1,000 meter. And like, he had the Union Jack round his shoulders, and it was like, oh wow, this Somalian refugee whose name isn't even Mo Farah. Like, he didn't even know what his name was. And the fact that he came over here as a refugee and then won double gold for Britain, and it felt we were taking the flag back from the racists, from the far right, because it had been co-opted. And yeah, now I'm back to where I was back in 2011, feeling a little bit, faintly embarrassed of this butcher's apron that's got this history behind it of not being a very nice country to other countries, etc.
Yeah.
To co-opt the good work that feminism has done over centuries, ever since Mary Wollstonecraft wrote about women and their role in society. I mean, all through the suffragette movement, all through the fact that it wasn't until the 1970s that women could get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Women couldn't even own their own homes. They weren't allowed
No.
to until
And
the 70s.
marriage was legal, because what your husband wants to do is
Yeah.
fine. It's property.
Yeah. That was until the 1990s.
Yeah.
It was legal. And it was really, really, really difficult to get out of a marriage. It still is. But like, it's a little bit easier now because you can get a no-fault divorce. You never used to be able to. And it got to a point where you'd have a married couple who'd been married for years, and the wife decides to leave, and maybe she's a bit older, maybe she's in her 70s now, and she meets someone new. She can't marry that person until the husband says, yeah, I'll agree to the divorce, which can take up to 5 years, Hannah. 5 years. When you're in your 70s, you might not have that long.
No, it's mental.
And all these sort of blocks that have been put on, and women have been fighting for equality, the fact that women still aren't paid the same as men, the fact that all of the ergonomics in life, buildings, like, oh, what about women's toilets always having a queue? The structures of everyday life, the car design, seatbelt design was designed around a man's body. And so because they weren't adjustable to a woman's body, women were being killed by their safety belts. And this has gone on for years. And as people have been standing up, making a fuss, saying this isn't right. And that's been that's been a good thing to happen. We've progressed. And now these TERFs have taken the word feminism and just twisted it into something that it's not, which is basically, we hate trans people.
It feels like a massive distraction, because a little bit like with immigration and everything, or like, the poorer half of the country, they're creating infighting so that we don't focus on the real issue.
Yeah.
It's a distraction.
Yeah.
Because, the real issue is violence from cis men.
Yeah.
And the risk to men.
Yeah.
It's also men. Because I see this in my comment section a lot. Men, get assaulted. Men can, be victims of acts of violence. By who? Statistically speaking.
Statistically, men. And we could be building a better world. I saw an interview with, I forgot who it was. It was like famous economist, and he was just talking about, like, there's enough stuff in the world for everyone to
Yeah.
have a decent life. There's enough food, there's enough water, there's enough air, there's enough fuel, there's enough everything, there's enough sunshine for everyone. And
Mm.
yet we are in 2025. We're still fighting amongst ourselves over bullshit that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But okay, I mean, have you ever in your life felt like you're in a situation where you wanted to get away from men in general, let's say, or and you've gone to a public toilet, and that's been your place where you've felt solitude and safety?
I think most women who've probably been clubbing, they go in groups.
Yes.
We move in groups for a reason because alcohol, potentially drugs are involved. Not necessarily yourself, but other people. When there's substances involved and already men's behavior tends to be an issue, um, things can escalate very quickly. Inhibitions are lowered. It's a dangerous space. So that's probably the only time, really.
Yeah.
Most people want to take a piss and then get back to doing what they were doing.
Clubbing.
Yeah.
Good song comes on halfway through a
Yeah.
piss, and you're like, "Damn it!"
Yes.
But so, I mean, when it comes to the other sort of the issue that these TERFs always hold up, it's public toilets and then women's refuges. And I've got a friend, very good friend of mine, who is trans mask, and they used to work in a women's shelter, in a women's refuge, and they were saying to me, like, that it just doesn't. I don't know how the women who are complaining about having transgender women in this space, I don't think they've ever actually been to a refuge, because they'll know
Mhm.
what it's like. They'll know that you're not, you're not sleeping in dorms or something
No,
where people can do anything. It's just not. That's not the case at all. And for these places to turn away trans women when trans women are more likely, well, a lot more likely to be the victim of violence
absolutely.
is horrifying. And I, I'm a bloke, so people will say in the comments, "Oh, you're a bloke. You don't get to you don't get to say this. You don't get to say that. You don't get to say the other." But here's the thing, right? That judge on Wednesday, he said a woman. He defined what a woman was. How come he got to do that?
Yeah.
And it was what was written. So you got your chromosomes, XX or XY, and then there's a
Mhm.
bunch of different ones that you could get if you're intersex.
Yeah, because intersex people exist.
Then you got your hormones.
Yeah.
So
But
you might be XY, but you don't have any testosterone for whatever
mhm.
reason, so you present as a woman. And then
Yeah.
there's genitals.
Yeah.
And those three things aren't mutually, like they're all come in one package all the time. I mean, they
No,
often
they
do.
don't always align. You also have, things like Turner's or whatever. There are so many different syndromes and diseases or genetic conditions that don't make male or female binary in the sense in which he described.
Yeah. So when someone says to me, why are you talking about this? I'm like, because a male judge who had listened to no trans people, no pro-trans groups at all,
Mm.
went out. And by the way, before we move on, I just want to say a big thank you to anyone who went out to any of the protests today across the country. There were thousands and thousands of people turned out in London to support our trans friends and the trans community. And our Rachel was there. She sent me some photos, and it was really good. It was really good, because I think a lot of our trans friends were feeling very, obviously, like, devastated by the ruling last week. And it's a bit of a ray of positivity to see so many people say loud and proud, we're here for the trans community, and not just leave them to do it themselves. You sort out your own thing. It's not my place to say anything. The James O'Brien defense, as Rachel calls it. It's not my place to say. And I'm like, although even James O'Brien did a show about it this week. And
Mm.
oh my God, did you hear it? Did you listen to James O'Brien
No.
this week? There was a woman who called up who was clearly a TERF. And honestly, she sounded absolutely bonkers. you know, when like she kept interrupting him and correcting him and just
Yeah.
being like, uh, I know like Karen is a bit of a, you know, daft pejorative, but oh my god, if someone had a like a comic character who was based on
Hmm.
a Karen and they are called in for a
Yeah.
laugh, that's what it would have sounded like. It was like, you know, a female version of the guy on the Exploding Head who says,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, love to the family." It was like that.
Oh
It was
God.
bonkers. I'll bring in a couple of words from the chat. Sarah's replying to Rachel and saying, "I'm the same. I can't use a male toilet ever again. I'm frightened about going to the office next week. I guess I'm housebound now." So this is another knock-on effect. I have trans friends who have to plan out their day. If they go into
Yeah.
town, they have to plan out in case they need the toilet, so they know where to go, where there's a non-gendered loo that they can actually use for themselves.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, Sarah was saying, I can't get my head around the amount of hatred there is on display now. Yeah, that's another thing. Why, why, why does it? You probably can't answer this, but like, why does it create such a visceral reaction in people? Do you think?
I think that it's slice of the pie argument, and I obviously I don't subscribe to that, but I think by, you know, I'll use the example here of like inclusive language. Okay, so especially in a medical setting, let's take giving birth for example. If you have a trans man who has decided to stop hormone treatment in order to have a biological child with their partner, and they are going into a birthing center. If I'm there as a cis woman giving birth and they call me a mother and they offer to help me breastfeed my newborn, by offering chest feeding and birthing person as inclusive language options for a vulnerable minority group in one of the most vulnerable, biggest life changing, possibly, you know, medically complex processes they will ever go through as a human being, it doesn't take anything away from my womanhood, but for a lot of women, it is perceived to be taking something away. To me, it's just a normal, empathetic, nice thing to do to make someone else in a really vulnerable position who's already probably uncomfortable because people look, people stare, it's unusual to find, you know, a man giving birth to a baby. I don't know why you would have a problem with that. But for some women, for some reason that completely escapes me personally, this is a problem because it's perceived to take something away from your own womanhood. But,
Yeah,
you know, adding language doesn't do that.
but
It just makes it safer and more dignified for a group that already are a minority group that receive threats and funny looks and are already
yeah.
discriminated against. I don't
So
know you'd have a problem.
what the TERFs say is that this is erasing women using terms like chest feeding, you know, using these inclusive terms. It's erasing women, and I'm just like, how does what? It's like saying having gay men is just, you know, and acknowledging their existence is erasing straight men. First of all, no, it's not. Secondly, how would that even work? Like, I mean, clearly the different types of women. You
Yeah,
can't say that a woman who's black is not a woman because she's not white. Like the idea of that is preposterous, and people go, and it's always people who have got no idea about biology. They learned everything they needs to know when they were like 14 years old in school, when they left without any qualifications. You know the type. You've all met the type. And they'll say it's common sense, it's science. You're arguing with the science. And then when you try and argue with them and say, actually, I'm looking at the science, and when
yeah,
you define what a woman is, you've got lots of different factors in that, and they don't all necessarily have to align. You give me one thing that you say this defines a woman, one physical characteristic, and I'll give you examples of women who don't have that. So women can have babies. Well, some women have had cervical cancer and don't have a womb anymore. They can't have babies. Are they not a woman?
menopause.
Women have periods. Well, what about older women who've gone through menopause? Like,
Yeah,
are they not women? And then it's like, oh, well, they're an XX chromosome. So, well, what about women who are XY chromosome born, but they have the features of a woman?
Mm-hmm.
One of the madder ones is in America, they wanted to make it so that your sex was defined at the moment of conception, which is a bit mad because when
all be
you're
female, would
you're all female, yeah, we're all
yeah,
female at that point.
they would hate that. They would hate that.
I think in their head they think there's like female sperms and male sperms, and that decides what, and it doesn't quite work that way.
This is what I mean, though. Like, don't have people creating laws and legislation that don't have the knowledge that they need in that field. It doesn't make sense. If you don't know about it, you shouldn't be making laws about it. Just like our reproductive rights. You just let's not. This stuff from America, I feel, is also like very much trickling in now.
Well, yeah, this is what we want to talk about, how it's affecting women's reproductive rights and access to safe abortions, because you never get rid of abortions, you just get rid of safe abortions.
No, it will be going back to, you know, back streets and people mixing up different plants, and you know, we know statistically it stops safe abortions, and it, as you said, it does not stop abortions from happening. It just means more people who need abortions will die. The stuff is really simple, and we have data on it. So look at the data, look at the science that you love so much, and you know, create legislation around that.
Do you think there's a generational thing going on here? I mean, do you have friends who are particularly turfy, or I mean, I guess they wouldn't be your friends for much longer, but
no, I did have, you know, I speak to the women in my life. You know, my dad's in his 60s, tattooed lefty. All of my family is pretty much. I spoke to my auntie about this. My mum's in her late 50s, and I asked, like, I don't think my mum and my auntie, they're very nervous using some of the language around it because I don't think they understand certain terms, but they want to be educated. And I had a discussion over the last couple of days because, you know, I made a bunch of notes and I took it to them and said, what are your feelings about this? Well, why? What's the issue? I've never been made to feel unsafe. And they were very much like, this is not an issue for me. I don't know why this has come out.
Yeah.
They, you know, my mum's 25 years older than me. It's not. It's just it's a non-issue.
It is to me like the people on the right who want to keep us divided and are beating a path to us leaving the European Court of Human Rights, are doing this on purpose because they knew that if they got this decision, J.K. Rowling, you know, taking a picture of herself on a fucking yacht with a fucking cigar like a twat.
Yeah.
They know that this will go to the European Court of Human Rights, and of course they're going to come down on the side of trans people and say, "Hang on, this is a violation of their human rights," because it clearly is.
Yeah,
it was a flawed decision. But the one of the most egregious things is that things is that there's two people now who were involved in the writing of the Equalities Act 2010, which is what this whole court case was about, who have gone on the record and said, we meant women to include trans women with a gender recognition certificate.
Do you think that's why any submissions that were attempted to be made to the court were not heard?
Yeah.
That, to me, that's not how the law works.
Stinks of a stitch up. So Bella the Witchy Faye in the chat there also pointed out about the two people involved in the writing of the Equalities Act have said that they thought, you know, and this court case was to try and suss out what the framers of this ancient document from 15 years ago, not 150 years ago. You're not trying to get in the mind of fucking Gladstone or Disraeli or something. You know, this is like the people are still alive. You could ask them what they meant. But they didn't. They didn't. They just guessed what it meant. And they took submissions from these turfy groups. Mm-hmm. One of them's based in 55 Tufton Street.
Oh, that's interesting.
The LGB Alliance.
Isn't some letters missing there?
Yes, that's on purpose.
Yeah,
because it's lesbians and gay people and bisexuals who don't like trans people for some reason.
apparently.
I've not met many of them, to be
No,
honest with
me
you.
neither.
I mean, they might be out there. I don't know. I met a gay conservative once.
Interesting.
It was a bit scary, but
Yeah,
it does happen, I guess. But to have a well-funded think tank based in one of the most exclusive sort of properties in London, just round the corner from Parliament, that sounds mad to me. It really does. Flint Reed in the chat says the vast majority of us so-called normal people, sigh, are not seeing this as an issue, and it should not be an issue. Folks need to mind their own damn business. Yeah.
yeah.
What's it got to do with me? What someone's got in the pants?
No, I could not care less.
Yeah. As long as not hurting anyone.
No,
Yeah. Do you know what? If someone commits a crime, and this is another thing, like this idea that trans women will be in the bathroom, they'll commit a crime in the bathroom. And I'm like, well, if they do, you can report them to the police, It's not
yeah,
like someone can sexually assault you and then you go to the police, hey, I've just been sexually assaulted. And then the police go, oh, but it was a trans woman, so we'll let them off. That
yeah.
literally does not happen. Like,
In fact, I would hedge a bet that actually, if a trans woman did assault another woman in the women's bathroom, they'd
yeah.
be more likely to get a fucking conviction.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. But this progress, so I can see how they're doing this. The billionaires, the tyrant billionaires, they're doing this to get us out the European Court of Human Rights, but also to roll back rights for women, but also for other members of the LGBTQIA community.
Yeah,
And we've already seen this in America, where they're trying to annul gay marriages in
yeah,
certain states in America. And it's going to come to the Supreme Court at some point. The Supreme Court's probably going to come down on
yeah,
the judgment because it's an ultra conservative
yeah.
Supreme Court stacked by Trump with lunatics who will probably say, yeah. And so you'll have
Mm.
people who've been happily married for over a decade and
Yeah,
they're going to
not
have their
bothered
marriage annulled.
one. Yeah,
If they have a child that they have adopted, they'll have the child taken off them.
yeah. It's terrifying, and this stuff is creeping in over here. So when you take away, it's not a win for women, as we've said. Like when you take away rights of trans people, that who's going to be next?
Yeah.
Who's next? Because at some point, it will be you who didn't speak, and they'll be coming for you.
Yeah.
That's how this works. Because people think, oh, it's not me. I'll stay quiet. Like it doesn't really matter. That doesn't affect me in my little bubble. And then they'll come for your neighbour. And you'll be like, okay, well, that's getting a bit closer now, but this still doesn't really affect me. I'm just if I keep my head down, it'll be fine. It won't.
Yeah.
You need to use your voice.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting how many people who are very, very anti-trans have no trans friends.
Yeah.
They never really had a normal conversation with a
Yeah.
trans
No
person. The only
interact.
time they interact is maybe when they're at a demonstration and someone's shouting at them, fuck off, we don't like you.
Yeah.
You turfy bastards. Whatever. I mean, not the best introduction, but I mean, we see this all the time with people from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
We see this with Muslims, black people, Jewish people, where people don't know anyone of that group, and so they're overly prejudiced towards that group because they just imagine that they're, outsider and other, and this othering of minority groups is, it's like banging your head against the wall, isn't it? It's like madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Why do we keep picking on minorities to marginalize and demonize and say it's all their fault? All the problems in your life, Hannah, it's all caused by this minority. And you find that places that have the least numbers of those minorities are the places that are most prejudiced against them.
Yeah.
Like Lincolnshire. It's often down for Lincolnshire, I'm afraid. But yeah. We've got some some more mentions in the chat. Kirsty's in there. Hi, Kirsty. What's wrong with these people who get up in the morning and their aim for the day is to make someone else's life more difficult? I saw someone comment on TikTok today, and they were just saying it's never anyone who's like happy who leaves horrible messages in the chat, is it? It's
No.
never anyone who's just getting on with their life and having a good time. It's the malcontents. It's the people who are angry about something in their life, and so they externalize it and they take it out on other people. Oh, Andy Thompson, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's very kind of you. This is the start of segregation. First, separate trans people from the LGBT, then separate the B under some excuse for not being either L or G. Yeah. Thanks, Andy. And you're absolutely right. You know, you get prejudice for being bisexual off gay people, off gay men in particular. They'll be like, "Oh, you got to pick, got to choose. Go on, pick one or the other." And you go, "Well, I like both."
And especially if you're in a heterosexual relationship. So I too am the B.
Yeah.
But I've mainly dated men.
Yeah.
And that invalidates my biness.
But why? It's like saying, like, you know, you can't, saying to a guy, "Oh, you like brunettes, don't you?" And you're like, "Yeah." I'm like, okay, so you can't date a blonde. Well, I could.
Yeah.
I just not met the right blonde yet, I guess. I don't know. It just seems like mad. And at the end of the day, what's it got to do with anyone else? As long as you're not hurting anyone, why do they feel this need to put you in a box and say, or pigeonhole and say that's you, that you're one or the other? You can't. And it's this denial of the fluidity of life, the spectrum of life, everything in life is on the spectrum except computers. But we did have a spectrum computer. But I mean, like, it's 1 or 0 in a computer. But humans aren't binary. Nothing's binary, really, in this life.
No, and people grow and change as well. So, you know, even I'm different now than I was 10 years ago. My opinions have changed. I've grown. I look different. All of that. Yeah.
Kirsty's dropped £2 in the super chat fund. Thank you, Kirsty. That's really kind of you. Sarah saying Julia Heartless Brewer interviewed Shivani Dave 2 days ago, and Shivani felt so unsafe by being interviewed by Brewer. She walked off the set. Did you see that?
I've seen a very, very short clip of it. I haven't seen the full one, but yeah, she got up and walked off, as she should have done. If you feel unsafe, you don't have to continue to put stuff in that space.
Julia Heartless Brewer, I mean,
I have thoughts about
her. Flint says, turns out the human condition is complex. Who the thunked it? Well, yeah. This is part of the problem. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't get what name it was because things the words are coming up too fast, Hannah. But someone was saying it took 10 years to get or would take 10 years to get a gender recognition certificate. 10 years because of all the backlog and the issues and everything else. It's just madness, isn't it? Like, the idea that anyone would go through that and give up the privileges of being a man. Something. Like, you're a man. You're going to get paid more. You're going to get respect when you walk in. You're going to, be able to pontificate about any fucking subject under the sun. And people are just going to assume you know what you're talking about because you're a man.
Yeah, you can mansplain. You can, walk home at night in the dark.
Yep. Go anywhere, do anything you want, and the world's your oyster, and you're going to throw all that away to become a trans woman because you want to attack women. That makes no sense. That makes literally no sense.
It doesn't.
Maybe we should stop people going to the gym. Maybe stop men going to the gym because they might go to the gym and become really strong, and that's to overpower women.
Yeah.
I'll probably stop more, men drinking. Men drinking leads to domestic violence. Football, when footy teams lose, the level of domestic violence goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So that's ban footy. Why? Because we've got to protect women. Shouldn't their home be a safe space?
Well, it is bonkers. I actually made a list. I made a list of things because I thought this was important and I'd like to read it to you. Yeah. So I put, the concern is that men will gain access to women's spaces under the guise of being trans in order to cause harm. This clarification within the law will not stop them. Men don't need to pose as trans women in order to inflict harm. Some, but not all of the things that have not stopped men from abusing, assaulting, sexually assaulting, harassing, stalking, or murdering women are being biologically related to them, them being told no, it being in broad daylight, it being in a public place, the victim being in a locked car or their own home, the victim being a child, or the victim actually being deceased already.
Oh my God.
I've not plucked that out of thin air. I've plucked that out of real cases
Yeah.
that you can Google.
Yeah.
Men don't need to pose as trans women to gain access to spaces. They just walk in when they want to.
Yeah. And here we are. Like, this is it. It's with everything that's going on in the world right now. This seems like the maddest conversation to be having. Like, why are we even considering that trans people are a problem when there are so many genuine, real problems going on in the world right now? Not least of which is climate change, which is
Yes.
hanging like the sword of Damocles above our children and their future children. We're creating a world that isn't going to be uninhabitable
Mm.
necessarily, but it's going to be less habitable.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the people are going to have to move. If your country is underwater, and don't forget,
Yeah.
half of Bangladesh is under sea level, right? It's below sea level. It's right in the Ganges Delta. It is, there's there's a lot of island nations that are under threat, but when it comes to just sheer numbers,
Mm.
places like Indonesia, places like Bangladesh, there's going to be a lot of refugees, climate refugees, who are going to have to go somewhere. You're
Yeah.
going to have a lot less food
Yeah.
because,
Food deserts. Yeah.
okay, yeah, we can grow more stuff in Norway. Yeah, but the soil is shit. The soil is all pine needles, millions of years of fucking pine needles, which haven't got much nutrition in them. Do you know what I mean? It's
Mm.
like, anyway. So, sorry, I got a couple of super chats that I need to address. We got Zante Sukan Amy there for the £2 super chat. Thank you. 15 plus years transition post op refused a gender recognition certificate twice.
Wow. That
15 years.
that. Oh.
And then Sarah, thank you very much. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat there, Sarah. Thank you to everyone for the support. I've struggled so much in the last few days. I've even had suicidal thoughts. Sarah, look, we've spoken, and my heart absolutely goes out to you. We need you. We need everyone to come together right now and tell these fucking turfs to fuck off.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you need to take care of yourself first before you can help other people, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There are people who are standing up now. Finally, some of them, but people are standing up now and starting to fight for trans rights and for the I mean, it's not even. I mean, these are basic rights. It's not like It's not like trans people want something extra on top of
No.
what everyone else gets. It's not like saying, "Oh, I want more universal what do they call universal credit? I want more universal credit because I'm trans." It doesn't happen.
Just fundamental, basic human rights. It shouldn't even come into question.
Yeah, yeah. So, Sarah, I know it's the last few days have been really, really hard on you, and it's been shit. It's been shit. But this community here is here for you, and you can get in touch with me if you ever need to, Sarah. So please do. And I'll get back to you. But you're not alone. That's the main thing. There are thousands and thousands of people who are feeling just as bereft as you are right now.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop fighting. We're not going to give up on this. This is the fight of our lives. This whole thing, this all fits into the fight that we have against the encroaching authoritarianism, fascism, conformity that is being foisted on us by the billionaires, non-doms, these foreign owners of our press and our media and our social media. They want a world in which they have everything and everyone else has nothing. And this is a piece of that disgusting puzzle that they're kind of putting together. Bella says, I'm currently on the TAVI waitlist. I'm anxious about switching to NOTS because they seem to kind of hide their waitlist a bit. Reverend, is that Reverend Kathy? Oh, Sarah, all the hugs. There are plenty of us here for you. You matter. You're a valid person just as you are. Don't take your life. That would be letting the bastards win. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We need you. We need each and every one of everyone who can fight this fight. Give us that support and support each other. Now more than ever. Now more than ever. Um, and Nicey B says, one blessing I have found through all the hate and division is genuine, caring, good people. I feel the same. Like, it's
Yeah.
been really lovely over the last couple of years meeting you, Hannah, and Tan, and Phil Morehouse, and all these different people who are making videos on TikTok, on YouTube and stuff, and fighting the good fight, and everyone's just like really lovely. Everyone's like really
Yeah.
nice. It's great. It's just like this really like little chilled out, relaxed sort of thing, and all I can see on the other side is just anger and hatred, and I
Mm.
know I can be quite animated on the show and everything, but I'm quite a happy bugger. Things
Yeah, that's why we love
things
you.
are up. I've got a cheerful scouser.
Yeah,
All
right.
things considered. I just want everyone to have a good time. And the thing
Yeah.
that winds me up is when people are stopping people from having a good time for no reason whatsoever,
Yeah.
except I don't know, maybe they're slightly sadistical. But do you think the next thing for these turfy motherfuckers, like, what do you think the next thing's going to be? Are they, because their goal is to erase trans people from public
Mm.
life, isn't it? To drive all trans people underground or something, make it so they don't want to leave their homes. What's J.K. Rowling's next move in a sinister master plan?
I know it should be, but
Can't
I
say that.
I, re- I really don't know, because I mean this was kind of an obvious one. I feel like, defining what a woman was. That was, they've been trying to do that for years and years and years. I don't know where you do go after this, but then I don't know. It's I feel like it is complete trans erasure. It has to be. I don't know what else it could be without impacting women, even though they are impacting cis women. They just are too dumb to realise. Um, there isn't a really obvious one to me, and that's kind of scary, because
Yeah.
something will just fucking pop up out of nowhere and be like, cool, now we've got to put that fire out as well. Thanks.
Yeah.
In the name of feminism. No, we don't claim you. Fuck off.
Chris C in the chat saying we need to boycott HBO's Harry Potter TV series when it comes out. If enough people refuse to watch it, they won't renew the series, and that will hit Rowling in her pocket.
Yeah.
In a way, in another world, I would feel sorry for the people who signed up for this.
Yeah.
But I don't, because they went into it eyes open, and I'm really, really disappointed with John Lithgow, with Nick Frost, with all these people who
Yeah.
signed up to be on this show. And you're like, guys, you do know that you're making more money for Queen Turf. And let's not beat around the bush. Warner Brothers have been trying to get the property off her for a long time,
Yeah.
because since she's gone this way, they know that she's absolutely toxic to the brand.
Yeah, it is having an impact. And this is what I grew up with. This is my childhood. I actually have the Deathly Hallows symbol tattooed on the back of my neck. And I'm glad my hair hides it now.
Oh no.
Because, that was before this happened. I was just 18 when I had it done. But it doesn't make me feel good now. It's not.
Can you put little arms and legs on it and make it Bill from
Yeah.
Gravity Falls?
Maybe I should. Just get a little cover up. Yeah.
We got Nia in the chat. Thank you very much, Nia, for the £5 super chat. I've been so distraught. I had to take time off work, and it's been destabilizing for me. I don't know how other trans people remain so strong. It's together. Like talking to Rachel this week. I mean, she was beyond devastated by this ruling. I mean, I was doing the show live on Wednesday morning when it came through, and
Yeah.
honestly, I hadn't actually considered that would be, because I thought, well, obviously they're going to say. I mean, it might not be great. It might not be exactly what we wanted, but
Yeah.
it'll at least be like women are women. Trans women are women with under this law if they got a gender recognition certificate. But it took that away. What's the
Yeah.
fucking point of having a gender recognition certificate
Well, this
if
is
under
it.
the Equalities Act your gender is not recognised?
Yeah.
So I was left, like, my mouth went dry, and I don't know. I'll have to watch back what I said. I can't even remember. My brain started swirling. I was just like, what the hell? And it was the same feeling I had when I was doing the election night broadcast, the American election, and Trump won. And I
Yeah.
was just like, well, it hadn't been announced, but it was obvious that it was going that way. And it was
Yeah.
me and Mike Dix, and Mike was just like, Graham, I think we should leave this. And I'm like, because he could see just how,
Yeah.
upsetting it was. And that's me. I'm not American and I'm not
No.
trans. So my heart just goes out to anyone who is, whose life has been turned upside down by this bullshit.
Mm.
Borg, thank you very much for joining the channel. We've got Borg Septic now, who's a member. And also Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the super chat there, mate. I feel helpless that I'm not doing enough on this. Due to my circumstances, I do have limitations, but I think I'm pulling every lever I can. Sorry, my self-esteem and self-purpose suffers a lot. Ivan, you are doing so much more than so many other people who are
Yeah.
either hiding away, ignoring it, pretending it's not going on, or not supporting anyone in any way, shape, or form. You are, one of the channel regulars on here, and I know that sometimes our content is a bit much, but you keep coming back, and we value that. We really value that, and do what you can. And also, a big thing of this is you've got to make sure that you look after yourself before you can even think about looking after anyone else.
Absolutely.
Put your mask on you before you put it on the person next to you, they say on the planes. And it's very true. It's very true. You can't save someone from drowning if you're drowning yourself. So make sure that you're all right before and let other people take the slack. Let other people, take up the mantle or whatever it is. I'm mixing me metaphors here. Quick, help me out, Hannah. I'm just all over the shop.
Like we're one big happy family who just want the goals of everyone to have the rights they deserve. And just like in any kind of relationship, sometimes it's 70. Like, what have you got to say? I've got 25%. Okay, babe, I've got 75. I've got you. This is what it's like.
Yeah.
You don't have to run yourself into the ground. Just showing up when you feel able to, having looked after yourself, is enough.
Yeah.
The rest of us will pick up some slack where needed, and we'll swap depending on the day.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
We're
And we need to fight back against this because it's the thin end of the wedge. I really do believe that it's the thin end of the wedge of stripping the rights of other minorities for stupid reasons. I mean, one of the ones I was thinking about the other day is like, what if they made a law in this country to ban circumcision for babies, and they didn't take any Muslim or any Jewish people into the account when they were, coming up with this rule. I mean, in a way, a lot of us will think, well, it's okay, it might be unfair for the baby for that to happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got the cultural side of things as well. And there might be a debate to be had there and some kind of compromise to be reached. But you don't reach that compromise without talking to people who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are part of societies that do that.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. There was a Latin phrase that Rachel used last night.
It's audi alter partem, which means that you shouldn't only hear from one side.
Yeah, let the other side be heard.
Yeah.
And the way that hasn't happened in this circumstance is just, it's mind blowing. And it's why we know it's not going to.
But how, as a Supreme Court, how is it legal for you to do that? That's what I don't understand, because it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Surely. That's why in every kind of legal proceeding, evidence is submitted. You'll hear from both sides. That's how due process works. Yeah. Is it not? Am I mistaken? Is that not how most
due
things
process seems to be going out the window on both sides of the Atlantic here?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And people are like, oh yeah, well, they're probably bad people anyway. I'm like, what happens when it comes to you? Like, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop at trans people. They're not going to stop at gay people. They're not going to stop at women. They're going to keep going until everyone who's not completely part of the MAGA cult or whatever it is all in line. And I don't want that future for my kids.
No.
Why would anyone want that? No. David, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Just give you a thumbs up for that. And Flint is saying, well, the TERFs have shot their last shot. They think it's a win, but it will not last. Injustice never lasts. Which is, I think it was Martin Luther King said the curve of history bends towards justice or something like that. I'm mixing up me quotes now. God, I'm all over the shop tonight. So, Have we got anything else that you wanted to talk about when it comes to the issues surrounding the court case this week and how that's affected in the intersectionality of it all?
I just want to go back to, I guess, like, your feminism is really not feminism unless you are inclusive.
Yeah.
It's you can't call yourself a feminist. I'm sorry. It has to be intersectional, and you have to want to protect trans women as well. Like, this is not, we can't just go, I like these kinds of women and that's that. Thank you. That's not how that should work. I find it incredibly frustrating. I can't even imagine what it feels like to be in the trans community, and also this has massive repercussions, not just for women but all members of the trans community, which will then have a knock-on effect on mental health services as well. So I am an attempt survivor. I have a lot of experience with the NHS mental health services and things like that. It's already severely underfunded. I did not have a great experience. My whole family is probably still traumatized from that. But having been there for other reasons, like, this is going to be the knock-on impact on some of the trans community who are really struggling with this, because humans want to be part of a collective group. Like, we don't want to feel othered, and this is exactly what this kind of stuff is doing, and it's dangerous from multiple perspectives. It's physically dangerous because violence is perpetrated against these minority groups. It's dangerous from a mental health perspective, which then has a knock on services for the whole general public. It's a fireball that's going to run through society if we don't stick together and change these things. And I think people get stuck on one tiny thing. And what's much more important, I feel, as a society, as a functioning society, is the bigger picture. I think that's incredibly important. And if you are in the trans community and you're also just, a bi woman who's really worried about these things, support your trans sisters, support the trans community. Look after your mental health as well. But, for the trans community, let us take this one. If you don't feel you can, we got you. I just want to send massive, massive love and support to you all. Those women are not feminists. They don't speak for me. They don't speak for many other people. You're our brothers and sisters, and yeah, deeply ashamed of the ruling.
Yeah, yeah. Jen H, thank you very much for the super chat, Jen. The next step is legal sex, so they can get rid of gender markers and passports and driving licenses. That's something they've done in the States, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
they're forcing transgender women to have M on their passport, and also there's this massive erasure, and this has happened with this ruling this week in this country, of intersex people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they don't exist, and yeah, it's I saw the most ridiculous thing. It was about a year ago, a couple of years ago. It was Richard Dawkins, the evolutionary biologist, and he's fallen down a bit of a turf rabbit hole, and he said, "Oh, the number of intersex people, it's so small that it's like an ant compared with the Empire State Building." So he gave some kind of analogy, and I'm like, you do know
And
planet Earth, based on the mass of the entire solar system, is like an ant compared with the Empire State Building. Does that mean that the Earth doesn't exist and can be safely ignored?
yeah.
Like, what kind of scientific argument is it? Because something is rare, it doesn't exist. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of there's a lot of elements in the periodic table that beg to differ on that one, but it's just it seems to be like some kind of like mind virus that people get, and it's like
Mm,
kind of the last refuge of bigotry on the left, isn't it? Where
yeah.
they think, oh, it's okay, I'm lefty about other stuff, but when
Yeah.
it comes to this, and because of the conflation with feminism, it allows people to be bigoted in that way and kind of get away with it. Naya, thank you very much. Or Nia, Andrea, thank you very much for the super chat. Why can't people see how dangerous this is for women in general? That the exclusion criteria is just going to be used to harm and control cis women as well. Couldn't agree more with that. You're right. It absolutely will. And yeah, the idea that now a male judge, I mean, it was a panel of 5 judges, but it was a male judge who read this out, a cisgender male judge who hadn't spoken to any transgender people or any transgender groups, suddenly declares that gender recognition certificates are invalid. Like, the power of that is just insane. But I just want to end on a couple of sort of, I guess, a call to action, first of all,
Mhm.
which is write to your MPs. I can't stress this enough. We
Absolutely.
have over, like, what, 300, 400 bloody Labour MPs now. Most of them are all right. Most of them aren't turfy. Write to them and explain what's happening. Explain what's happened to you. Explain what's happened to your friends. And get them on side. Get them to understand the stakes here. Yeah, the more letters that go in, the more backbenchers will stand up and say, "Oi, Keir Starmer, so-called human rights lawyer."
Mm.
Yeah, Bella the Witchy Fae pointed this out just before, saying honestly the PM should not really have any credit for his past as a human rights lawyer anymore.
No,
I kind of agree, because he's not doing himself any favors in terms of human rights at the moment. But yeah,
no.
please write to your MPs and get them to get onto the government to clarify what is meant in the Equalities Act, because they can do that separate to this judgment and
Yeah,
actually say, we are going to, it's a really easy thing for them to do. It's not introducing a new act, it is amending an act that already exists. They've got a massive fucking majority. They could do it tomorrow and say, for the benefit, Mr. Kite, in this case, in this act, we are using women to mean transgender women as well, with a gender recognition certificate. I would like the bar to be lower myself. Anyone who's lived as a woman for 2 years, fair enough. But then,
yep.
that's going into the murky waters of making it a lot easier to get a gender recognition certificate. So do the first one and then do the second one. Make it easier to get a gender recognition certificate. Allow self-ID, etc. Someone was saying in the chat before that getting a gender recognition certificate it's pretty grim. Like, the shit that they put you through to get it is just, it's a bit much,
Yeah.
which is understandable. The other thing I'd want to mention as well is that the younger generation coming up have fucking no clue what the fuck these turfs are all on about. They've got mates who are transgender. They're growing up with Heartstopper as, the graphic
Yeah.
novel and the TV show, and Sex Education, and these shows that show transgenderism and gay people and lesbians in a positive light, getting on with their lives and,
Mhm.
having a good time. And when we were talking about how people don't, a lot of turfs don't know anyone who's transgender, they never met anyone. A lot of younger people have friends who are transgender, or know someone in their class or someone in their school who's transgender.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And I'll get the quote right. Sorry, someone actually put the quote up that I was trying to get right about Martin Luther King. Here we go. This is Paula. Thank you, Paula. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. You put it much better than I did. But yeah, that's great. So yeah, are you all right to leave it at that? As we've been
Yep.
chundering on for.
I'm happy if you're happy.
Yeah. Can we do this again sometime? Get you back on the
Absolutely.
intersection. Because I don't know if you remember, but Hannah was on the very first episode of the intersection about 2 years ago.
I was, and I've been very difficult to pin down.
Because she's so busy. It's because she's busy bee.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we could do this again sometime, and it might be a bit ad hoc. It might just be like, oh, Saturday. Graham doesn't normally do a show on a Saturday night, but I'll make an exception. But yeah, it was great having you back on, Hannah. And
Thank you for having me.
oh, absolutely. Anytime. So thank you everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for being in the chat there and leaving nice messages. And I didn't spot any trolls. So well done, One Angry Pagan, for patrolling for the trolls there. We've got our own Norse expert. He knows a lot about trolls and how to get rid of them. Amy Walker, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Safety first. If you need to get out, we're free to move to the Republic of Ireland. Yes. It's the one country that you can still move to in the EU. No questions asked. You could always move to Ireland. And I've got some friends who are doing that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my Irish passport, to be honest.
You got an Irish passport?
My granddad.
Oh, totes gels.
I know.
And
Bye.
I've got a shitty blue British passport. Sucks the big one. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for the super chats especially. And until tomorrow morning, I'll be back at 9 a.m. Hopefully, if I wake up for Sunday service. So please join me for that. And until then, I'll just say thank you so much for watching. Give us a like on the way out. It doesn't cost anything. It's always fun. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.
Bye.